In the news tonight, Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour returns home following a visit to Turkey, where he represented His Majesty the King at the annual meeting of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Twin car bombs on the Turkish-Syrian border claimed the lives of at least 40 people and wound 100, and the Turkish Prime Minister says the blasts are most likely linked to the Syria crisis. And Britain's David Cameron says he and the Russian president share fundamental aims to end the bloodshed in Syria and prevent the export of violence and extremism around the world. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour returned home after representing His Majesty the King at the annual meeting of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in Istanbul. Mansour delivered a speech at the meeting, highlighting Jordan's progress on both the political and economic fronts. He also met with the Turkish president and held talks with the Turkish Prime Minister and heads of the participating delegations. Earlier today, Mansour met in Istanbul with Egypt's Prime Minister Hisham Qandil. The meeting dealt with bilateral cooperation, namely in trade and investment sectors, focusing on the supply of Egyptian gas to Jordan. Mansour praised the Egyptian government's pledge to commit to agreed quantity and uninterrupted flow of gas to Jordan. Discussions also touched on the Syria crisis, where both Mansour and Qandil affirmed their agreement on the need for a political solution to end the violence and bloodshed in the country. Earlier in Turkey, twin car bombs have so far claimed the lives of at least 40 people and wounded 100 near the border with Syria. The bombs ripped into crowded streets in the early afternoon in Rihanli, scattering cars and concrete blocks in the town in the southern Hatay province, home to thousands of Syrian refugees. Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan said the car bomb attacks may have been related to the conflict in Syria or to Turkey's own peace process with Kurdish militants. Later in the day, Deputy Prime Minister Bülent Arınç told reporters in comments broadcast live on Turkish television that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government are the usual suspects behind the car bombs. However, he said Turkey must wait for the results of an investigation before deciding on any response. There was no immediate claim of responsibility or any comment from Damascus. The United States strongly condemned the twin car bombings in Turkey and vowed solidarity with Turkey in identifying those responsible. U.S. Ambassador to Turkey, Frances Ricciardone, said in a statement that the United States will stand with the people and government of Turkey to identify the perpetrators and bring them to justice. The crisis in Syria dominated a meeting between British Prime Minister David Cameron and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Cameron, speaking at a joint news conference with Putin after talks in the Black Sea resort city of Sochi, said he and the Russian president, although differ on how best to handle the situation in Syria, they share fundamental aims in ending the conflict. He warned that the history of Syria being written in the blood of people and said there is an urgent need to do more to break the vicious cycle that threatens to destroy Syria and export violence and extremism around the world. Cameron said he welcomed the announcement by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry of an international conference to negotiate an end to the war. He said a solution to the conflict should include a transitional government based on the consensus of the Syrian people.
The President and I have agreed that as permanent members of the UN, we must help to drive this process, working with partners in the region and beyond, not just bringing the regime and opposition together at one negotiating table, but Britain, Russia, America and other countries helping shape a transitional government that all Syrians can trust to protect them. It's no secret that we have had differing views on how best to handle this situation, but we share fundamental aims to end the conflict, to stop Syria fragmenting, to let the Syrian people choose who governs them, and to prevent the growth of violent extremism.
The retrial of former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak has started at a court in Cairo. The retrial was ordered after an appeals court in January accepted appeals from the prosecution and the defense. The judge, who adjourned the trial until the 8th of next month, said the delay was needed to consider new information presented by the prosecution. Mubarak's two sons are also being retried on corruption charges. Here's the story.
A commotion as former President Hosni Mubarak is wheeled into court on Saturday to face retrial on charges of complicity in the murder of protesters. Seated in a cage reserved for defendants, he appeared calm and in good health, raising his arm to confirm his presence to the judge. A prosecutor read out the charges against Mubarak and separate corruption charges against his sons, also present in the defendant's cage. Asked by the judge their response to the charges, both Mubarak and his son Alaa raised their arms to deny the allegations. Mubarak is charged with involvement in the killing of more than 800 protesters who died in the 18-day uprising in 2011. The case has exposed the difficulties of achieving transitional justice in a country whose judiciary and security forces are still largely controlled by figures appointed during the Mubarak era.
The Palestinians haven't elected a president since 2005, but now they are finally getting a chance to do so, virtually through a reality TV show. The show, dubbed The President, offers contestants a chance to address the Palestinian people on what they would do on a variety of subjects if elected president. For each episode, contestants are given questions from the panel on issues such as Israeli settlements, the death penalty, and how to revive the struggling economy. The panel, comprised of politicians, professors, and business people, with input from the audience, vote them off. Of the thousands of Palestinian youths who applied to take part in the show, 15 made it through. A winner will be crowned in the finale, scheduled for late June, and will get to travel the world as a mock Palestinian ambassador. In Pakistan, a string of attacks and gunfights that killed at least 17 people cast a shadow over the country's general election, seen as a test of the country's troubled democracy. 86 million people were eligible to vote in a landmark election that will bring the first transition between civilian governments. According to partial count of votes, Nawaz Sharif, seeking to become prime minister for a third time, appeared way ahead of his rivals. His strong performance is believed to deal a blow to the Pakistan People's Party, which led the government for the last 5 years. The party of cricketer turned politician Imran Khan, popular among urban youth, appeared to be close behind in third place. Meanwhile, the country's election commission issued a statement admitting they had failed to hold free and fair elections in the commercial capital and biggest city of Karachi, adding that polling would be rerun in 40 locations. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, historical train cars from golden age of rail travel are on display inside New York's Grand Central as part of the terminal's centennial celebrations. And the third round of the 2013 FIA Middle East Rally Championship concludes by the shores of the Dead Sea with the participation of 27 drivers from 8 countries.
عن جد مع الغد الكل ربحان. اشترك أو جدد اشتراكك لمدة عامين لتقشر وتربح العديد من الجوائز.
Britain's Prince Harry, on a week-long visit to the United States, made a stop in Colorado to support the 2013 Warrior Games. The Olympic-style competition hosts military veterans wounded in war who compete in sports including archery, wheelchair, basketball, swimming, and cycling. Before concluding his trip on the 15th, Prince Harry will also visit people affected by Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey. Here's more on the royal visit.
Prince Harry continued his week-long visit to the U.S. with a second day in Washington, D.C. On Friday, the royal visited Arlington National Cemetery. Harry arrived dressed in his military uniform and was given a brief tour of Section 60, where many soldiers killed in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars are buried. Harry then attended a somber ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknowns, where he laid a wreath at the memorial. It was then on to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, where he toured the center's prosthetic rehabilitation facility. Harry greeted wounded service members and their families at the state-of-the-art hospital. The prince, the third in line to the British throne, is expected to use his U.S. visit to show support for both wounded U.S. and British military personnel and promote his charities, as well as undertake official duties on behalf of the government.
Solar power is the future. China's largest solar-powered parking lot has brightened the 13th World Landscape Art Exposition, which kicked off in Jinzhou in northeast Liaoning province. The 40,000 square meter parking lot, covered with thousands of solar panels, offers charging for more than 200 sightseeing and engineering vehicles, all electrically powered. The parking lot can also provide extra power to the city as the garden closes during winter. The garden enjoys an advantageous geographical condition for exploring new energy resources. Currently, 10% of the garden's electricity comes from solar power supply, and the portion is expected to go up to 30% in the future. Remember the days when train travel ruled transportation back in the 40s and 50s? Well, as part of ongoing centennial celebrations honoring New York's Grand Central Terminal, historical train cars from golden age of rail travel went on display inside the terminal. The old luxury rail cars came to the terminal from all over the country in celebration of the terminal's 100-year history. Many of the trains were built in the 40s and 50s during the heyday of the mid-20th century luxury train travel. The train's interiors display the Art Deco decor of the time, pastel, cushioned chairs, and elegant dining rooms. Known back in the 60s as a century girl, Joanne Jennings Scalfani was a train hostess and was able to meet some of the biggest celebrities and politicians of the time.
I never expected I'd ever meet Frank Sinatra or President and Mrs. Truman, Ernest Hemingway and Miss Mary, and people like that. Lena Horne, oh, she was gorgeous. Lenny Hayden. Let's see, was it, no, not Count Basie, Duke Ellington, fabulous. Harold Lloyd, who was a silent film star. I mean, just too numerous to tell you all, but just wonderful people who had wonderful stories to tell.
And to another 100th anniversary, and as part of Australia's celebrations to mark the centenary of the capital, Canberra, a Skywhale hot air balloon took to the skies over the city. Designed by sculpture and visual art, home with the first leg of the Jordan Rally, the third round of the 2013 FIA Middle East Rally Championship, which concluded today in the Dead Sea area. 27 drivers from 8 countries battled it out as they covered 8 special stages and 124.06 competitive kilometers. His Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Al Hussein, chairman of Jordan Motorsport, crowned Qatar's Nasser Al Attiyah as champion during a ceremony at the Dead Sea. Attiyah finished in a time of 2 hours and 51 minutes, 2 minutes ahead of Lebanese Roger Ghali, who came in second. And in third place came Khalid Al Qasimi of the UAE.
Ladies and gentlemen, In third place, Sheikh Khalid Al-Qasmi, Emirati driver, alongside his English navigator Scott Martin on a Citroën DS3 RRC.
It's one of the most difficult rallies, not in the Middle East only, it's even in the world. And it's not easy to finish this rally. We finished in 4th overall. We are not really happy about the result. We missed one position to be in the podium, but about level and the stage times, we are really happy. We did some good stage times, and we're fighting for third or second fastest time in the stages. We are really happy about the level.
Tennis and the Madrid Open, Serena Williams swept past Sarah Errani into the finals of the tournament. Chasing a 50th career title at the clay event, defending champion Williams was far too strong for the Italian 7th seed. With her 7-5, 6-2 victory, Williams set up a clash against world number 2 Maria Sharapova, who beat Anna Ivanovic for the place. And as the La Liga title nears its exciting conclusion, Barcelona coach Tito Vilanova said his team need to close it. The La Liga leaders finally have their fate in their own hands and can secure a 22nd La Liga crown with a victory at Atletico Madrid tomorrow. Speaking to reporters, Vilanova said the match against Atletico will not be an easy one. Barca need 2 points from their remaining 4 matches to wrest the title back from their arch rivals Real Madrid. And finally, for a quick look at the weather, a cool night with northwesterly moderate to brisk winds and a chance for local light showers. Tomorrow, moderate conditions prevail in most regions with a continued chance for rain in the southern and eastern parts. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to fresh. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a relatively hot day tomorrow with southerly moderate winds and calm seas. We now look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour returns home following a visit to Turkey, where he represented His Majesty the King at the annual meeting of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Twin car bombs on the Turkish-Syrian border claimed the lives of at least 40 people and wound 100, and the Turkish Prime Minister says the blasts are most likely linked to the Syria crisis. And Britain's David Cameron says he and the Russian president share fundamental aims to end the bloodshed in Syria and prevent the export of violence and extremism around the world. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.